Okay guys, we're back out here. Got my respirator on. Drag link has one coat on it. We'll paint that. I gotta paint up the calipers when we get this front end done. So, see what happens.
That came out good. Now let's get it on there without scratching it. So it's funny, that that bar came black, and I stripped it, sanded it, and cleared it to make it look more like a natural stainless steel. So what I wound up doing this time was just cleaning it, sanding the clear coat, and just painting over it. So I think it looks good. Looks good in black. Don't really see it. You do, which is neat. So obviously that's not the angle it's on. These springs are hanging. It lays pretty level. The more level you get that bar, the less bump steer you're gonna have, period. So that's why you bend the pitman arm down, or you raise up the steering arm. So when this thing's on the ground, that thing is pretty much flat. So I just want to adjust the joints so they lay flat. I'll see how they are when I jack it up. I thought they were flat. But, so let's get that shock on. I gotta clean it. I don't think there's anything wrong with the paint. And then we'll jack it up again in the center. Just so you know, the color of that shock, it appears more orange. There you go. Definitely appears, tones down. I put my finger across it. The color of that shock is nutmeg. It's a satin color. That's the same color they paint the ladder bars and when they used to make their racing shocks and roll bars. Lakewood and NMW, I think it was, were the people. That's why the bars painted that color. As well as, guess what? The ladder bars. So, I mean, that is an exact match. I walked in there with an originally factory painted piece and matched it 100%. And when I shot them side by side, they're identical. And that was nutmeg. Yeah, I'm going to be the first one to admit that filling in those holes on that beam definitely was a step up. So, I got to tighten up the spring bolts. Do the calipers and put them on. That's it. This car's got a front end again. So, let's do that. Obviously the shock went on uneventful. I didn't see a problem. So. Okay guys, I'm using the Toyota part. A couple of washers. Look how nice these things are. Okay, still built the whole car with no Chinese parts. Got some Japanese parts. Okay, all the spring bolts are tightened. I gotta put the upper kingpin Zerk fittings in, which are obviously just common fittings. The lower ones are unique to the car / truck. So these. You can get away with short ones, but I always found these things nice, and last time I just painted over them. This time I pulled them out. So I gotta clean these two up before I put them back in. I just never seen Zerk fittings I look like this before. Anything will not focus. So these two I'm going to clean up before I put them in. These are the two upper ones. They go in. This side probably easier to see. I don't know if it's there or focusing. They go there, and on the bottom, because the kingpin is pressed into your beam in a bushing, and then this is what rides on it. This is what pivots. So you definitely want to keep that greased, because every time you move the wheel, it has to be riding on something. And I used to keep the front end greased. I just wiped the grease off these, as you can see by my hands. Okay, we got them in. It's a nice little detail. Yeah, Zerks are in. You can see the bottom one down there. See how it overhangs past the steering arm. That one's cleaned and done. Obviously the top ones were whatever they call them, with zinc. I don't know what it is. So that's why I left the factory ones there. Looks like it makes it easier to grease it when you cut the wheel than if you put a shorty in there. So, okay, let's work on the calipers and the front end's done. Okay, I wound up not painting the calipers at all. Just cleaned them and left them whatever they coated them with, which there's nothing wrong with. So that's how they sit. So, just gotta clean the little L off. So, that was the only place I actually sanded to make them clear a different set of rims. So maybe we'll put a little cast iron in a cup and that should match it perfectly. So, like I said, that's the color they came. Looks good to me. Let's get the other side done. Okay. That side's done. So, okay, all touched up. I did the other one too. So, I'm gonna clean these threads. So let's put this tire on, then we'll get the other one on. There you go, guys. Back down on its wheels. We didn't clean the wheels, but it's back down on it. Sure, this thing's gonna get a final cleaning before we start driving it. So, I'm happy. Definitely happy. Looks a lot better than it did. So, let the springs settle in a little bit, and that arm should be just about perfectly straight. So, see just enough of those rotors. Like I said, I touched up the calipers, they're good. So, we'll clean the pan when we clean the engine. The last thing I got to do is I just want to go in there and tweak those heim joints. I also want to, I'm going to have to center the steering wheel. I shim these leaf springs a little different. You know, if you can't see it, there's a shim in there. I tried to leave a little bit of clearance in there, because they're not rubber bushing. And when you would cut the wheel back and forth under a load, not going down the road, you'd hear bang, like a knock. And at first I didn't know what it was, and then I realized after having somebody turn the wheel that the spring actually would shift and hit the side of the hanger, talking the thickness of a washer. But that's all it took. So that's all done. So looks neat and clean. That's all that matters.